Hello and welcome to Writer Rant, author advice in 5 minutes or less because I have to get back to writing and so do you. So this week I'd like to talk a little bit about something that I found a little strange in a sci-fi book that I was reading a while back, and it's essentially, the term I would come up for it would be future anachronisms, right? So we all know what anachronisms are. We all know that if you're writing something that's historical, that's a piece that's set in the past, that you can't have flat screen TVs and computers if it's in the 1800s. So the flip side is also true, right? So if you're writing books that are sci-fi that are set in a future time, there are certain things that you can't predict in terms of technology, what's going to take off, what's going to revolutionize the world or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of those things you can't really figure out ahead of time, but there are certain things that in this time frame, in the time frame that you're writing right now, are already kind of on the way out. So, for instance, let's say cameras, right? So you want to have a story set 1,000 years in the future, 100 years in the future, whatever, and you have just like a point-and-shoot type of camera, like not a DSLR, not a smartphone camera, it's just a point-and-shoot. Like, how many people do you know actually use point-and-shoot cameras anymore? Let alone in 100 years, right? It's just a matter of you're essentially creating an anachronism within your story, even though your story is set in the future. Like, there's no way people are going to still be using those types of things, or like laptops. Like, most people use tablets nowadays and those kind of things, even just their smartphone. And so, when you're thinking forward, you really have to think of what technology is today and kind of extrapolate out, right? So, you kind of get a sense of, oh, hey, here's some technologies that are kind of right on the cusp that could be really big in the future. So like 3D printing and all that kind of stuff, is huge and is certainly on the rise. And so those are the kind of things that you put in your story and say, oh, hey, we're in the future and this technology has been fully realized and it's cheap and effective and all those kind of things. Those are the things that you really need to think about in your future story, because if you get bogged down in stuff that is even today outdated, I mean, technology moves fast, so you got to be really on top of your game if you're writing a story that's set in the future. If you're including technology that's already outdated today, then you've already kind of lost your audience, because your audience is like, wait a minute, like, when was the last time I used a point-and-shoot camera, or when was the last time I was at a desktop computer or something like that. And using those things really kind of dates your story, especially if it's set in the future. Now, granted, some of that's charming, right? You have the futurism of the 1950s, but any more of the modern stuff, it's like, try and predict a little bit better than the stuff that we have right now. Especially, again, your time frame is going to determine a lot of that. If it's 100 years out, man, things are going to be way different than they are today. And so you really got to keep track of that in your mind as you're writing. It's like, okay, what is technology in 100 years from now? And a good way to do that is think, what was technology 100 years prior to when you're actually writing? So that way you can see how much it expands, how much it grows just in 100 years, and then take that and use the future technology as, baselined in the time that you're writing. And then that way you can kind of avoid these future anachronisms. So, what about you readers out there? Has anyone else found a book or read a book where you're like, oh, wait a minute, this is set in the future, but they're using stuff that we don't even use anymore today? Drop a comment below, let us know about it. And if there's anything else that irks you as a reader or a writer, maybe drop a comment below and I'll get to it in a future episode. And thanks for watching this episode of Writer Rant. I'm Benjamin M. Weilert.